I put the Ruby pipeline on there so we can air that out via work camp and NDOW participation in routing of the pipeline. Dave Pulliam, you've got the floor.
Chairman, committee members, my name's Dave Pulliam. I'm the chief of our Habitat division here, for the record. And I'm just going to kind of briefly go over our involvement. There has been some maybe some misinformation or misunderstanding about our involvement in the Ruby project over time. So back in 2008, Ruby held its initial scoping meetings on the project. We were involved in those meetings, and we provided scoping type of information to the project. In other words, we identified resource concerns, wildlife habitat concerns that we wanted to be addressed in the decision-making process in the EIS. And FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, was the lead federal agency on the environmental impact statement. We actually talked with them about cooperating agency status, which is a standard CEQ requirement for federal agencies. However, FERC sometimes has a little different interpretation of some of the NEPA requirements and CEQ direction, and we were actually told that we would not be a cooperating agency, but we would certainly be a partner in providing information, input, recommendations, mitigation plan strategies. Since 2008, we've probably attended over at least a dozen to 15 meetings, interagency meetings, meetings with the proponent, Ruby pipeline folks. We've met with FERC, et cetera, as well as a lot of letter correspondence. Our approach to Ruby since the beginning has been that to focus on location, alternatives, to avoid or to try to minimize impacts to wildlife and wildlife habitat, to establish through the decision-making process, through FERC's decision-making process, reclamation standards to be met on disturbed habitat as they go through the area, including access roads and disturbed sites, to minimize weed encroachment and all those types of things you see with these types of disturbances in our country, to look at potential seasonal restrictions on construction along the line where we had critically important sage-grouse nesting habitat, for example, where we would prefer that they avoid construction in this segment and focus on another segment to try to minimize and eliminate some of those types of impacts. We, a part of the process, in cooperation with BLM and FERC and Ruby Pipeline folks, we formed biological assessment teams. We were a part of those teams, as well as some BLM contracting some specialists and working with FERC contractors that were involved in the EIS process. And through that, did actually a mile-by-mile assessment of the wildlife conditions, both from a habitat quality standpoint and activities such as, again, sage-grouse nesting, pygmy rabbit occurrence, migratory bird values, all those things that are kind of associated with big game too. Mule deer habitat was a big part of that assessment. A lot of focus on those species that may come up and bite us in the rear end, if you know what I mean, from a federal listing standpoint. So we wanted to make sure we were showing a true effort at reducing impacts on those species, and we did, again, focus on much of the line on impacts to mule deer habitat, mule deer winter range. So that was a pretty intense mile-by-mile. I think it might be the first time a mile-by-mile assessment is done on a linear type of project, at least that I'm aware of. Again, the other part of this is that Ruby has the preferred alternative, crossed a portion of our snowstorm mountain acquisition, our state land. We issued a right-of-way. That's in the process. It's been signed by our agency, sent to state lands, and I think it's just about ready to be issued. So as far as us not being involved, that's certainly far from the facts of the matter. We've been involved almost since day one, and quite frankly have spent quite a bit of time on that. We're continuing at this point to finalize mitigation. The decision, FERC has made the decision on the preferred alternative being the route. We did have some concerns with the route. We thought that maybe following Highway 140 would be a better route going into Oregon, as there's already the highway right-of-way, and FERC had, Ruby had filed testimony with FERC that that was a feasible route for them. It did cost them a little more in construction cost, but it would have reduced mitigation costs significantly. Overall, it may have either been an even-Steven type of deal, or maybe the project would have cost a little more, but we certainly would have avoided some of our highest quality sage-grouse habitat when, that the preferred alternative was going through, which is that line south of the southern boundary of the Sheldon and then up through in there. We were no doubt disappointed that that alternative was not selected by FERC. However, our mitigation package, I think Ruby is satisfied with it. We're satisfied with it. We cooperated with Wyoming, Utah, and Oregon in the development of that mitigation process. So we're pretty pleased. We're not, we didn't get everything maybe that we wanted as a wildlife agency, but we certainly were working with FERC and Ruby all the way along this process in support, actually, of the line in terms of, but again, trying to protect wildlife and minimize impact. So that's short and sweet what we did. I think we've created a chronology of meetings and events and all of those types of things, and I think handed that out in different forms, maybe up in Elko at that event, or at an event there. So with that, I'd entertain any questions, or certainly.
We got it. We're
Don Carp.
going to see if we got any commission questions here first. Commissioner Capurro.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Pulliam, maybe this is a question for Kevin Lansford, but do you have any idea how many sage-grouse leks are affected by this?
By the line
across the state?
I don't have that. Maybe somebody here. Let me look around. I don't have. Pardon me. It's in the book, but I don't have it on the top of my head. I know there's a significant number of sage-grouse leks, and of course the associated nesting habitat, which is probably even more important than the lek, actually, along the line, and primarily as you get into the western part where we go underneath the Sheldon. Certainly we could have minimized impacts by selecting the alternative that did go up 140, but that would have gone through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's Sheldon Refuge, and they were pretty much opposed to that. So,
have you ever taken a position that you're opposing this line at all, just in certain sections for the habitat?
No. Actually, since day one, we've been cooperating with FERC and Ruby and BLM on the project. We have taken the stand that we would like a thorough assessment of alternatives. We would like a very serious look at the differences in impacts of going up through the Sheldon along 140 versus the other. We made it very clear we preferred that route over the other route. We have had input in reclamation standards and those types of things for disturbed sites on the project to minimize weeds and other habitat concerns. And again, the timing of construction, we have identified segments of the line that are critical during sage-grouse nesting habitat or nesting periods that we would like to try to avoid construction scheduling to avoid those kinds of impacts. So, at no time has the agency or any biologist involved in it actually gone out and said we oppose this whole project. Matter of fact, I think our agency has been very supportive of the project in terms of working together and trying to work to minimize impacts to wildlife.
Commissioner Macbeth?
I'm just curious, since the determination that was made by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on the sage grouse, the recent, I'm not sure the exact terminology they use, precluded or whatever that.
Warranted
but precluded. Was there any hesitation or any discussion about this rerouting issue given that determination?
As a matter of fact, yeah, we questioned Fish and Wildlife Service's approach, while at the same time they're finding this species warranted but precluded. Their refuge system took a totally opposite thing and said, no, wait. It seemed contradictory to us that the Fish and Wildlife Service wouldn't support a alternative route that would minimize impacts to sage grouse. While on record, and the FERC lead on the project has identified that in three other instances nationally, they have had permission to go through wildlife refuges. So there didn't seem to be the legal basis for not going there. But we did not prevail in that argument, and FERC went ahead and made that decision on the southern route and authorized that. Now BLM goes through a right-of-way issuance, but they're pretty much tied to the environmental impact statement FERC had completed.
Any other questions on the board? If not, excuse me just for a minute. Commissioner Cavan.
Thank you. Dave, what's the status at the moment? Are they staging, get ready to build? Are they building? What's the timeline there?
If you've driven from Elko to Reno along I-80 and you look over at some of the railroad stops, you will see great big piles of blue pipe, several locations. So yes, they are getting ready to go. The other part I would lead into here is the man camp in a minute. Some of those things we're talking about, but yeah, they're staging materials along the line as we speak, and have been for several weeks at least. The other segment of this is the Via Man Camp, which the county has issued permits for. It's evidently in the very beginning of our involvement, it was unclear. There wasn't a clear description of the property that this man camp would be on. But we have since and just recently found out it will be on private property, but it will house, well, it's been talked up to maybe 800 people, 600 to 700 people at times, and as we have experienced in the past, sometimes the recreational activities associated with this kind of work camp on the off hours or weekends can certainly have impacts on wildlife. Both from a disturbance standpoint or even in some instances have been experienced poaching activities have taken. We have talked to Ruby all along about a law enforcement presence from our department. Ruby has agreements with Washoe County on 2 deputies, but no final decision on whether or not they would support a game warden for the area, or our ability to shuffle our workload to get a game warden present in that area. We're working also with BLM on that, as they have agents that will be monitoring certain things out there, and they do have an agreement for cost reimbursable, so we may be able to piggyback on that agreement. We're still in the stages of getting any final response from Ruby on that, but we feel that's another potential impact of the project that we would certainly like to see Ruby partner with us and help us have a law enforcement presence along the project, and especially with regard to the man camp.
Thanks, sir. Dave, is that man camp going to be located up near that transportation substation?
We still don't have a location. I just asked this morning I just found out this morning that it was going to be on private land, but I asked what private land is it, and that answer hasn't. I don't have that answer. I can probably. Have you got? I can tell you. Oh, okay, great.
Well, we
the other
call for the
we'll
public
sure.
in a minute
The other question I have for you is, I actually think it's very important that there be not just deputy but services, but our own law enforcement up there, because they're familiar with that sort of thing, and not so much the, running the highways and doing that sort of thing. So is there still the opportunity that Ruby would go along with picking up the cost of a game warden?
We're working on that. We haven't got an agreement from them to do that yet, but we're working on it on two avenues, directly with Ruby, and in terms of that very thing, providing us with actually a vehicle and a salary and per diem costs that would be associated with having a law enforcement agent up there. And we're also working through the BLM agreement to see if there's some opportunity to get cost reimbursement through that vehicle for salary and some equipment. I would say that generally speaking, deputies would refer wildlife violations to our wardens. So they can be up there and we not have anybody there and they can see something, but they're going to call us to send somebody up there, and that's going to eat into our capabilities and our opportunities in other areas and everything else. So we're hopeful that we can work something out with them, but that is kind of right now a little bit up in the air. But we're negotiating with them, and they're listening, to our input.
Okay, thank you, Dave. We have some public comment on this. Vice Chair Rain, who's...
State Assemblyman John Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. For the record, John Carpenter, and I represent all of Elko and the northern half of, or the northern part of Humboldt County. So I appreciate you putting this on the agenda, because I think that it's very important that the Commission hear, what has been going on. And I appreciate Dave bringing you up to date with that. And if you look in the book here, the pipeline project, the environmental impact statement, all of the things that Dave was talking about have been addressed here, from the number of lecks to the whole ramification. It's all in this book if you want some bedtime reading. And they surveyed this entire line, and all the way from Wyoming, where it starts and comes across Utah, and the greatest portion of the pipeline is in Nevada, comes across Elko County, Humboldt County, and part of Washoe. And within 2 miles of the pipeline, they documented 104 lecks, and it's amazing what they have accomplished in regard to the wildlife along this pipeline. And my main reason to be here is to hopefully that you will support the pipeline with the mitigation efforts that are going to be made, and they are going to be substantial. And I talked to the BLM person in Price, Utah, who is the manager of this project for the BLM, and he said it hasn't been firmly established how much money is going to be in there for mitigation of mainly sage grouse, but it'll be in the neighborhood of $12 million, and that's is about the figure that I think that Ken is aware of, because Nevada probably has about 2/3 of the sage grouse miles that are going through the habitat. So we should get about $8 million for mitigation, and that's in addition to just what they're going to normally do along the pipeline to rehabilitate it and reseed it and all of those things. So that mitigation can be used in other areas, and and we can hopefully get some predator control along that pipeline route for raven control and things like that. So hopefully, you know, within 10 years or so, why the habitat is going to be better than it is now. This pipeline is all going to be buried. There will be some what they call pressure stations, I guess. You have to have them to push the gas along, and there'll be one in Elko and one in Humboldt County. And you know, it's a huge boost for the people that will be put to work on this pipeline. In Elko, when we had a discussion before the county commissioners, the labor union representatives from Reno came to Elko to encourage the county commissioners to take a positive stand on this, which they have all along. But the book here says that maybe about 15% of the workers will be local, but I believe that the union representatives, it will be a union project, that they feel that there's going to be a lot more people from Nevada put on the construction crews. And as far as where it is right now, according to the manager from the BLM, they're waiting for the cultural surveys and all of that. They don't think there'll be any right-of-ways issued until sometime toward the end of June or the 1st of July. So we don't know whether that's getting too late for them to start this year. You know, they wanted to start in March, and they started, you know, stacking the pipe up along the route at that time, and so it's been delayed, you know, a couple of months or so. So hopefully it isn't too late for them, and whether they'll try to start this year or not, I don't know, because there is restrictions in there of when they can construct the pipeline when they're near lecks that are you know, what's the word we want to use, that hopefully there'll be some production from. So there is a lot of qualifications that they have to meet in order to construct this. And so hopefully they will be able to start this year. If not, why, they can get their permits and get started right away. I think they thought they were going to be able to, you know, just kind of walk into the deal and get started. And they did get the permission from this outfit to start, but they have to get the right-of-ways from the BLM. And I know that there's been some lawsuits filed, and maybe there's going to be more filed. But this project is most important to Nevada, both from an economic standpoint of putting people to work, and it's going to be most important to Elko, Humboldt, and Washoe County in regard to the taxes that are going to be collected by those counties because of the assessed valuation of this pipeline. This environmental assessment says that there will be over $7 million collected in Elko County on ad valorem taxes, over $5 million in Humboldt County, and over $2 million in Washoe County. So, you know, it'll be a huge impact on these counties, and we think with the mitigation efforts that's going to be there hopefully won't be many what you would call a downfall things. That it'll all be positive after a number of years, and this the reseeding is done and the mitigation is done, that things will be better than they are now. And we would really appreciate the support of this commission that with your approval or support of it, with the mitigation efforts that that the department has been talking to the company with, and then we won't have to worry about the situation of where the Wildlife Commission and the department sits on this, because there has been, right, wrong, or indifferent, there has been some information out there that the department did not support this project. And I think where it came from, that the department wanted to go along the highway that goes through the Sheldon Antelope Refuge, but FERC talked to the wildlife, the Fish and Wildlife, Federal Fish and Wildlife, and they just would not agree to that. It was probably makes the most sense to do it, but they wouldn't agree to it, and that's probably where the situation came, that where the department may have been in opposition to it, because they did want to go up along there, and I think the Ruby had no problem with that, but Federal Fish and Wildlife would not agree to it. And talking to all those people in the know, the only way you could get it is if the Secretary of Interior, Ken Salazar, would overrule the Fish and Wildlife Agency. Either that, or you could have to get a bill through Congress that said this would, where the pipeline would go, and you know that is just not going to happen. So we appreciate you putting this on the agenda, and with that, be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for John Carpenter? If not, thank you, John.
Well, thank you, and like I say, you know, it's amazing all the work that they've done on not only on wildlife, but all aspects of this project. It's going to be at least a $3 billion project, and it's going to take gas from Wyoming into California and the Northwest. But another important part is that they are going to, during their construction, they're going to put, I guess you'd call them valves, so that if other communities like Wendover and Wells in Elko County that do not have natural gas, that someday if they can get the customers, why they could hook on to this pipeline. So it's very, very important to our communities and to the whole state that this project goes. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
We had Elko County Commissioner John Ellison.
You guys are making me feel old. Thank you. I'm John Ellison, Elko County Commissioner. I can tell you, John almost hit on everything that I was going to say. Dave is right. They've done a lot of work out there, mile by mile, did wonderful jobs out there, I tell you. The 18th, the governor's called for a special meeting for a lot of county commissioners in rural Nevada. We're going to meet in the governor's office on Tuesday morning to go over some of the sage grouse issues throughout the state, and that's going to be one of the areas also that we're going to talk about. So that's going to be on Tuesday, and I'm hoping we can come back with some better ideas, some better approaches. I sit on the National Association of Counties, and we're working in Washington right now on some of the sage grouse issues, trying to keep that bird off the endangered species list in the listing. The man camps, I know that I'm hoping he can hit on a lot of this on the man camps. I can't tell you, but I know that our Sheriff's Department is vowed to do whatever they can to keep good security in that area, speeding, trash, whatever. So Elko County's committed to doing that. So, and in the past, I can tell you one thing John's talking about, some of the therms, we looked at trying to bring 2 power plants to Elko County and White Pine. We couldn't do it because we didn't have the therms of fuel. This is going to open up maybe some of the therms of fuel we could use for the future, for not only for mining but for power plants. Thank you.
Any
questions for John here? Not, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it for coming all the way up here.
We had Don Cleveno was the next one with the card. Want to speak on this particular issue? Then clearly we have somebody else.
I'm Don Cleveno, retired from the University of Nevada. I'm working on a research project. Well, it started as a research project in the general area in northern Washoe County, maybe 12 miles south of Via. What that put, maybe 15 miles south of the Sheldon Antelope Range. Well, this area isn't right in the location of the project. I suggest that it may be representative of a lot of the areas that occur along it. There were 5 starting grounds when we started in 1984, and we did a number of research projects. I had 3 grad students there and studied various things. 1988 I retired, and since then been a volunteer in counting birds. And since 88 to now, I made 28 trips up there to do starting ground counts. In the spring, we covered most of these times. While there were 5 starting grounds in 1984, now 2010 there are 3, and in 1989 was the peak. The birds peaked about 1989, 1990 in there on this research area, and at the time, 1987, there were 336 birds on these 5 starting grounds. In 2010, there are 3 starting grounds, and there are 83 birds. 336 in 87 and 83 now. So we lost 75% of the males over this period of time. The point I want to make is that in a lot of areas along this pipeline and everything, not only are the number of leks important, but the condition of the populations that are present in, or indicated by these leks is important. And a lot of this is things are declining without the help of the pipeline, and we're going to have that. And so an added impact, you can judge how significant it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, John?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Cabral?
Yes.
Don?
Don,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Answer questions.
do you have any idea of with respect to predation by ravens?
Yep.
In those leks?
Well,
do you have anything on that?
Yes, we did. When we first started, it was, the project started because they were concerned about sage grouse, and so the first thing we looked at was hunting. And we tried to shoot as many birds as we could up there, hoping to maybe get to 25%. And we compared that with an area where we didn't hunt. And while we did this, the birds increased, actually. And like I said, so the next thing we looked at was nesting studies, and what's happened to the birds in regards to that. And the ravens were clobbering them, essentially. And so follow up on that one was raven control. And that was very effective. I mean, it got to the point where if you saw a raven up there, it was a rare thing in the springtime when we're counting birds. The control led to a big increase in nest survival. However, the broods didn't make it through the summer, and so we didn't add anything to the population. What apparently happened, the nests that were saved raised chicks that were unable to survive, and in the fall population it was about the same. I don't know that you could say that this type of a thing could be expected under any throughout the range of this population. Other populations are going to respond differently, and some of them might be. But anyway, it's a variable thing. That was our experience.
Okay, thank you, Don.
Okay.
Anybody else in the public want to comment on this?
For the record, my name is Mike Turnipseed from the Douglas County Board, but I also have a contract with Ruby Pipeline to supply them water from Opal, Wyoming to Malin, Oregon. I have a subcontractor that's taking care of the Wyoming portion and of the Oregon portion. Everything you've heard so far is correct, but I'm going to add some specificity to this. It's a 675-mile pipeline from, if you know where Opal, Wyoming, if you don't know where it is, it's 15 miles east of Kemmer. It's right at the southern end of that overthrust belt, that large gas pipeline, gas field that goes all the way to Pinedale, down to Kemmer. That's a hub. From there, there's pipelines that go northeast and east, and this is the only one going west. The pipeline begins there, and like was said, their first sources of water are largely surface water in the upper Bear River drainage, lower Bear River drainage. They begin to use groundwater more when they get into western Utah. I also asked early on, why not use 140 and go into Oregon through Denio? And, well, we have a conference call every Friday morning, but we didn't have one this morning. But I didn't hear this directly from Fish and Wildlife Service, but they told me what Fish and Wildlife Service said. It doesn't fit with our resource management plan. I'm thinking, what does it take to revise a resource management plan? A couple of hearings and make a rule, just like you guys make every month or two. Anyway, that wasn't to be the case, so it goes south of the Sheldon, but north of the Summit Lake Indian Reservation. There's a narrow band there, and it goes straight west through there. There's a compressor station just north of Elko, right alongside the highway. There's a compressor station at the very northwestern corner of Desert Valley. And I asked them early on, because they need a permanent water right at those two locations. And I said, can't you move that a little bit further west? Because there's no unappropriated water in Desert Valley. Can't you move it into, I think the next valley west is Pine Forest Valley. There's lots of water there. Nope, those are all fixed. So the two compressor stations in Nevada, one in Utah, one in Wyoming. They told me that there will be 5,000 to 6,000 workers. This 675 miles of pipe is going to be let in 7 different pipeline contracts. And I've seen them directional drill with 4-inch pipe and 6-inch pipe. And I said, how do you get under I-84 and under the Bear River and Highway 93? We directionally drill. Well, I got to see that. I've never seen a drilling rig that can directional drill for a 42-inch pipeline. 22 new wells in Nevada. The man camp is in section 10 in the southeast quarter. I can't remember the township. Range 19 west, out east. If you're coming out of Cedarville and you hit a T, you go north and make a bend to go to the Sheldon, or you go south and make a bend to go further east. There's the county road shed right there, just south of that T, south and west of that T. I'll send you a map. Yeah. There was an existing well. There was an existing well there that had no water rights on it. I filed an application on that for them. Washoe County, for 600 men, including laundry facilities, RV hookups, bunks, and full kitchen facilities. The Washoe County said they need a second well for fire protection, so I filed a second well for them at the man camp. And the contractor that's building the man camp says, I don't like it there, so I had to file a third application for a well at the man camp. Start and end dates. When I started with Ruby, it was about February of 2009, and they wanted all of their permits in place by the first year, this year. And to begin construction, I think the 1st of March. That didn't happen, so things got pushed back. Like John said, they have their FERC permits now. They have all of the water permits except 3. I don't know about the environmental permits because there's a whole separate consultant that's taking care of that. So they're just about there. This will be wrapped up by mid-2011. What else was I going to add? The man camp, like I said, 600 men, full laundry facility, RV hookups. I know what I was going to add. They need water for dust control about every 10 miles along this 675 miles. And then they'll pressurize this pipe with water anywhere from 5 miles to 80 miles, depending on how much elevation change there is. When you get in the eastern part of the pipe, they take water out of the upper Bear River take it through 2 mountain ranges, but they got to put it all the way back, pump it all the way back, because they don't want to be accused of transferring any mud snails or any kind of biota. Again, when they get to the lower Bear River, they take water out of the Bear River. That section's a little longer, about 60 miles. They pressurize up to 1,800 psi. They got to take all that water back and put it back in the lower Bear River. It doesn't matter on groundwater so much as far as the biota, but they have various discharge points along the pipe, and I think it's just going to be a matter of throwing up a few straw bales, and somebody's going to get a few free stockwater pond out of the deal, particularly when you get this western part of the state. I think that's all I intended to say, but I'll try to answer any questions you have. I guess it's a lot easier to find a water leak in a pipe than it is a gas leak at 1,800 psi. Your normal water line pressure in the street's about 100 psi.
Yeah.
This is going to go to 1,800 psi.
Okay, thanks.
600 thousandths pipe.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Okay. Any other public comment on this item on the agenda? If not, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the commission. And it's an action item, whether we need any action on it or not. What does the director think?
Well, I'm not sure. I'd ask Senator Carpenter whether it's in need of a letter of support from the commission or not. I think things are going forward.
Right.
And it's kind of like trains left the station. So unless you have some other idea.
Well, actually, the agenda item is to support or oppose the commission or the
And you have no
department's
Right.
actions thus far.
For the record, John Carpenter again, and I think it's most important that we have all the support we can get now, because if there are some suits filed by people that oppose this, it's most important that we have the support of the people in Nevada, so that we can use that as ammunition, if you want to use that word, so that we can hopefully deflate any plans they have to derail this pipeline. So if we could get a letter of support, and with the mitigation that the department has recommended, which I'm sure the company is going to be more than willing to meet those conditions, we'd be most appreciative of that, because we went back to the county commissioners and got a new a letter of support from them, and we're going to be doing it to other groups, because we know that there is opposition, and there may be opposition, and so we need that support from you people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Commissioner Ray?
I have a question, Director Mayor. So, do I understand the department now fully supports the construction of this project with the agreed upon mitigation?
It has been from the very beginning.
Okay. That being the case, then I would be happy to support that position. I would be happy, and I'd be happy to make a motion on that if we were at that point.
We could write a commission letter supporting your position, I guess, which might help. Commissioner Cavan?
Well, this goes back to Ken. Is the department supporting this project or tolerating the project? I think there's a big difference.
We like the first one better.
I understand, but I think we're tolerating the project.
I would answer that in that I truly believe the department is supporting the project and has from the very beginning, knowing this, that it is a buried pipeline. It is not an above-ground structural permanent impact. It is a long-term impact in terms of restoration and reclamation in some areas, but we've been involved, again, since day one. We've been involved in the reclamation standards, and the difference between mitigation and reclamation. Reclamation is a part of the actual project. That's where they go in, they've disturbed the surface, they're going to take care of the weeds, they're going to reseed with appropriate seed mixes, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those types of things we were initially inputting to them are part of the required by the project. the mitigation packages that are being developed that for all four states are in the range somewhere of $12 million that Ruby is willing to pay for mitigation, is off-site restoration types of work that can take place along the line or in the general vicinity of the line, but to mitigate for habitat fragmentation, loss, seasonal disturbance, those kinds of things. So I truly believe the department is not just putting up with this. I think we are charged with protecting wildlife, and I think our people have been involved since day one with identifying the issues, providing the data to their consultant, participating in a biological assessment team, and negotiating both project stipulations and mitigation packages. So, hope that answers.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Dave. Mr. Farrell, we're about ready for motion.
Yes, I know you are. I just would like to see the motion include emphasis upon supporting the need for game warden protection up in that area once you establish that man camp, because I've hunted the Sheldon and 011 all my life, and I know you've already got I think a problem there with regard to poaching. So I can imagine that you're going to have some exposure there that I think we need at least one warden and the necessary equipment for.
Who wants to do a motion?
If they're going to spend $12 million for mitigation, it seems like this is not a large investment to protect our wildlife up in that area.
Commissioner Rain?
I'd like to keep it relatively simple, along with the position that I've heard here today, and I'd like to throw out some wording. It doesn't necessarily include, trying to get into all these specific points, but what I'm hearing today is that the department fully supports construction of this project with the agreed upon mitigation. And therefore, that being the department position, as I understand it today, I move that should we write a document? What's the best way to write a document supporting that position?
Letter?
Letter? I don't know who we're putting the letter to. Who do I put the letter to? Just issue a position statement. Do we issue a position statement that we fully support the construction of this vital infrastructure project with agreed upon mitigation? And leave it at that.
You want to write it to Ruby?
Yeah.
Put it in their file.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
And to be placed in the appropriate locations as deemed fit by the chair.
I can give you the address.
Distributed to the locations as deemed appropriate by the chair.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, and everyone understands, I'm sure. And seconded by Commissioner Morai to support a position statement. And anyone have any questions on that? Commissioner Morai?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that NDOW support would carry weight in the whole process. Commission support also would do the same, and I think that it's important that we pass this motion.
Yeah, I agree. All for the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. We're going to go back